And, you know, I've been in bands and writing for bands as an avocation, not my day job. My day job is writing, but since 1979. So I've been in bands or writing for bands. And in around late 90s, I started writing lyrics for the Blue Oyster Cult, which was a favorite band of mine. I loved them, so the opportunity was wonderful. And of course, Michael Moorcock had written for them.
Okay.
I always had that sort of rock and roll stream running through my work. And even if it didn't ever mention it or anything, I had an energy that I tried to have that feel like really, really strong, good, sometimes prog rock, sometimes just different kinds of heavy, but more arty sort of rock, Patti Smith or something. Some of the punk rock, and I would play it while writing sometimes so that the rhythms of that and the feel of it appeared in some of my stories.
Yeah, I think music has such an influence, such a positive influence in a lot of movies. I mean, like you said, The Crow, I couldn't imagine the movie. And I mean, every time you hear the song of The Cure doing The Burn, you cannot think of The Crow. Like, it's such an indelible part of it. It would be like chopping off a limb to get rid of that song or any number of the other songs in that one. So they're very interchangeable. I mean, even it's funny, the Blue Oyster Cult too. It's like the first time I really sort of picked up on, I'm sure I've heard them before, but the one time I really caught on to them and really enjoyed their music was in a movie, and it was a funny, cheesy movie. It was, nobody's watched it, I'm sure. It's called The Stoned Age, about a couple of guys who just go out, and there's this one scene in there where we're talking about how the guy has this absolute epiphany. He's at a Blue Oyster Cult concert. They're playing Don't Fear the Reaper. And when he does the big solo, the spotlight shines on him, and he's like, it's like one big internal eye just staring at me, and it completely changed the course of the whole movie on that one song. It was such an influence at the time. So
movie, and so for the Blue Oyster Cult, that comes from one of their more popular albums. In fact, it was their first really big hit albums, but they had a strong following from their first three albums, especially Secret Treaties, and I advise you to get those records. They're just, if you love hard rock, they're like they used to be called the thinking man's hard rock, and they're very intricate, and they're somewhat influenced by classical music. They're kind of organized that way, and the lyrics are dark but very poetic. So then I went on to write 18 songs for them later on, and more now, because they have a new album out, their first studio album in 20 years.
Holy crap.
You have
and
to
all
get
because
this,
of you?
No, but I did write 5 songs on it. And this is their first studio album in 20 years. And it's called The Symbol Remains, the Blue Oyster Cult symbol,
Yeah.
What
a great cover name for the 20 years.
All new songs, and it really has done well. It was in the top 20 Billboard album charts. I'm actually getting paid, so it's really done well. But if you like, and also if you're a horror fan, The Symbol Remains has a song which I did not write, but it's this cool song called The Alchemist. And what was the name of H.P. Lovecraft's first story? The Alchemist. And this song is based on that story.
Very cool.
Inspired by Lovecraft's first story. Yeah. And I wish I'd written the lyrics to it, but it's really fun also to find on YouTube. If you look up Blue Oyster Cult, The Alchemist, you come to the video of the song, and it's a really enjoyable gothic horror video. They really did it nicely.
Cool. Well, that's my guarantee to you, is I will definitely look that up as soon as we're done.
You should get the album, although you can hear the whole thing free on YouTube if you like. The Symbol Remains, but the album, it's a great thing to have in the car when you're driving around. I wrote the 2 singles off it and 3 other songs.
Cool. Do you do any instrumentals on there as well? Because you play instruments as well, I think, don't you, John?
No, but I sing is what I do primarily. But no, I'm not on it musically, just my lyrics.
Gotcha.
But I have my own albums out. They're very minor compared to the Blue Oyster Cult. But yeah, I'm going to be playing a gig on March 7th. Oh, cool. In fact, I opened for the Blue Oyster Cult.
No kidding.
At a really big theater in Portland. A packed house, 1,500 people, which is a lot for me to play in front of. I usually play at nightclubs. And that was like just at the beginning of the COVID thing and the pandemic.
Snuck that right in there.
And we snuck it in right. And then like a week later, all the clubs were shut down. And so we didn't play again for a couple months ago. We did a gig at a big place in Portland. And we're starting to do more now. We had an album out, and we're going to do a gig on May 7th in Portland.
Oh, okay.
A place called Dante's, as in the Inferno.
Nice. Gonna burn the place down. Yeah. Lyrically, of course.
We did a great job opening for the Blue Oyster Cult. The audience actually enjoyed us. I was afraid they'd be looking at their watches and saying, "When is DOC coming on?"
I know, you always have a tough. You never know how it's going to go when you're at the opening.
Right,
band.
But they were very receptive, and we rocked it, and the band complimented us. It's probably the high point of my performance life was that night. And I'm really glad that happened.
Now, did that happen with the opening before you started getting involved in their lyrics and writing songs for them? I'm guessing it was.
No, this was just, no. I started writing lyrics for them in the 1990s. Okay. So I wrote 2 albums worth of stuff. I mean, I didn't write everything on the albums, but like 8 songs in each album. One called Heaven Forbid, and the other called Curse of the Hidden Mirror. And then they didn't do another studio album for a long time. They just toured endlessly. And then finally, 19 years later, they have done their first studio album. Since then, the symbol remains, and it's triumphant return. Great reviews and everything.
Perfect. And are they going on tour with that now, or
they are touring right now?
Okay. And
they're doing 2 of my songs. That Was Me and Box in My Head.
Okay.
So I'm, I get all squishy inside thinking.
It's a good song.
I get all giddy.
I bet,
Live for Me is a really rocking song, and they're both, they did just wonderful things with them. It's just a thrill for me to write for a great band like that. I also write for Blue Coop, a band called Blue Coop, which is Dennis Dunaway from Alice Cooper and the Bouchard brothers, who used to be in the original Blue Oyster Cult.
Okay. And
they're playing around a lot, and Joe Bouchard has a song I did called She's a Legend that's on YouTube. You can find it. Okay. She's a Legend, and it's a horror story. The song is a horror story told in lyrics.
I'm sensing a theme here, John.
Yeah, I do write stories in my lyrics. I mean, they're not all quite in that format. Some aren't, but I do that. I do tell, and in my book, The Voice of the Burning House, most of the poems are stories.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, it's I somehow have it in my genes. I don't know why. It just seems to be imprinted in me. I was born that way, like the Lady Gaga song, but in another sense.